Sunday, but it's an important Sunday because it's World Press Freedom Day. So I think it's we have chosen well to do this today than any other day. So and also let me thank the Dutch ambassador Marianne, who is with us. The Netherlands are playing and will be playing later on this year an important role in organizing a conference on press freedom. So it's very good that Marianne can join us and tell us a little bit more about planning.
And the Netherlands is as you've seen in the World Press Index, number 5, which is good, but we can't be complacent. I mean, you always have to defend the freedom of the press and the freedom of the media. And I mean, I'm a civil servant, I'm an ambassador, civil servant, part of the government. And journalists, I mean, they are there to control the government, like our parliament. They support our parliaments often. They hand over information that parliamentarians can use in the official scrutiny procedures of the government. But the media often are the first to dig up some information and to expose certain issues. And as a civil servant, of course, I'm also touched by that. Sometimes, you know, it feels uneasy, it itches, because they are asking questions and we think, okay, do we really have to tell this, you know, how internal workings of the government are? But in the end, this is good because it controls the power of the government. And that is the role that the media have, the role that we have to defend.
I'm wondering, how are you dealing with the raining of information? Because as Mr. Berger said, this is like both disinformation and misinformation is raining from every possible source. We cannot sometimes control it.
This is, I think, an issue or a subject that is now very, very visible with Corona, but it has been there for a long time.
Yes.
The way we're getting bombarded with information, I mean, starts with the emails that you receive. What you could expect that most of it's true what's in the emails, but already there you have to start questioning it. And then the news, the print media, then the internet, then whatever else. So I think principle number 1, apply your common sense.
It's not just news and sites and fun. You can actually find very serious research in it. But it is there. This is the beauty which you never had when we were young and we were going to university, because it was the printed media and the libraries. We didn't have everything as a tool in our hands immediately through the internet.
It's true that we have access to many more sources. I mean, I'm not an epidemiologist. And I cannot myself interpret everything. I rely on certain outlets that have proven to be reliable. I mean, I follow a lot, and that's what Maria Elena is also hinting at. The website of Johns Hopkins, where all official data are recorded about the corona crisis. The fact that there is so many ideas and theories floating is just the expression of the fact that the experts do not know themselves what's going on.
A crisis now with the coronavirus, people don't really buy newspaper as much as before. Do you think after this pandemic ends, will it still be the case? Like newspapers will keep the online platform, or will they go back to printing newspaper?
It's mainly a commercial or financial issue. In some countries, Turkey, by the way, is one of them, where a lot of newspapers moved to online because the paper is too expensive. You have quite a number of papers that sell online subscriptions rather than selling the newspapers at the newspaper shop. And that I'm sure will continue. Of course, there are people like you and I guess us who still occasionally would like to turn a page and smell the news.
Yeah.
Traditional media had lost its credibility. Unfortunately, I don't know how is the situation for you, but for me, I had really left to watch news on TV because it may be full of manipulation or sharing with us the agenda of certain people, certain actors, political actors. So this is why I tend to consume more digital media.
Yeah.
But after this pandemic, I feel really fed up with those fake news and with those infodemics and this extreme optimism or extreme pessimism. I'm lost in this flow. How do you evaluate this situation, guys?
Now with the digital, we have the opportunity to have many different sources. So I read as much things as possible to build a really solid opinion and to have different point of view, because it's really important to see different point of view in order to have your own, and to not be manipulated by one and only one media.
When I see a news flash that something has happened somewhere, then I quickly check if this is reported by somebody else as well. And then later on, I try to read a few of the commentators who could provide an interpretation or give an analysis of what that news means.
With the new era of communication, with the new possibilities of internet, do you think or feel we are closer than ever, or distance between us getting bigger and bigger?
Now, when you look at different, I think, crises or incidents around the world nowadays, obviously, whatever happens in South Patagonia, within minutes, you know it around the world. And I think it's the same with this crisis. So something happens somewhere in China, and within minutes, the whole world knows about it. Now, this can be good. This can be bad. It can be bad because it can create panic, because it's the only thing that you talk about and read about, although it is thousands and thousands of kilometers away from you. It can be good because it gives you early warning. And sometimes, when my wife reads news to me, I always have to ask, where has this happened? Because the way she reads to me as it is next door.
In this new media age, without a full free speech environment that we can talk about free press, I also want to be a journalist who wants to have a clear opposing stance to any government. I really would like to hear your sincere suggestions about what is the right way to stand, even in this extreme situation.
The repression of the freedom of expression, it is wise to be careful and not to put yourself too much at risk. I mean, certain people will always do that because they really feel that they have to express themselves to the fullest, and they might get in trouble. But sometimes it's better to fight from a bit behind the front line. Because if you're in the front line, you're bound to be shot. But if you act from behind the front line, you can maybe be more effective. Although sometimes you will feel that you have to compromise.
We have a debate in my own country at the moment about something along those lines. Because you have, regarding Corona at least, you have had many critical voices as well, saying this is all, nonsense and this is exaggerated, and the measures taken by the government are exaggerated, and we see the economy will not collapse and blah, blah, blah. And some journalists or even some government members have said, these are Corona deniers, and have used all sorts of other negative expressions. But there is a debate now going on among the media saying we have the right to question. We have the right to question the government, what they are doing. We have to point out that some of the measures that are being taken, which are at the moment accepted by the public, but when you really analyze it, are a violation of fundamental rights. That you have to stay at home, that you can't meet people, that you have to do this, you have to do that.
The Netherlands is one of the visited countries in the world. The tourist attraction and the other things. How did you manage this situation during pandemic, or how did you, control the media coverage?
Well, I think in the Netherlands there was no particular attempt at controlling the media when this crisis broke out. Although there were a couple of issues that created tension between the media and the government. And one of the issues was the number of deaths that caused by this crisis. The media started to talk about the unregistered test. And at first, the government wasn't not really at ease with this, but after a couple of days, they realized that this was an important issue. The government can only report the official case. That is, people that were first diagnosed with the corona and then died of it. There are many other people that have never been diagnosed with the corona. They thought they had another flu, or they had another underlying disease of which they passed away. Many are very, very old, say people over 85, 90, who simply, are so weak that they succumb. So these people are never included in the statistics, but they are victims of corona. There, I think the press did a good thing questioning what the government was reporting. And the government by now is comfortable with it. Every day it reports the official figure, and it sort of indicates the number of deaths per day or per week that are most likely related to corona.
Such as what we're facing these days. Misinformation flows are everywhere. And I'm gonna ask you, do you believe governments or the right constitutions should restrict social media during these conditions in order people not to misdiagnose themselves and cause more harm? So how can we balance the control of the social media while not touching our freedom of speech?
I think my bottom line is what is the world's offline is the world online. So what is forbidden and what goes against the law offline applies also online. That means that there is an enormous freedom for everyone on the social media, also to put a lot of nonsense and disinformation. What the most important thing is that governments themselves establish the position as a reliable source of information. Governments that are true with their citizens can acquire the position and be an important source of reliable information.
Opportunity. Bye bye.